Season 2.
Season 2. How about that?
Yay! Been going a year.
Can you even believe it? When we first started, we was like,
So
we
good.
should do a podcast. We should do a podcast. And we was like, right, January, let's do the podcast. And we recorded our first episode,
Yeah.
the Pollock Twins, which still remains
Yes.
to this day one of my favourites that I've done.
I think it's everyone's favourite because it's the most listened to.
I really, really loved that episode. However, had I been as confident as I am now, I feel like I could have done a better job.
Maybe we'll redo it.
Maybe.
Who
Because there's a lot
knows?
of in that.
Yeah.
When
I
you
know.
used to have to edit out all of our
Yeah. Now just don't bother.
No.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm drinking?
What are you drinking?
It is, right, a pina colada
Oh,
tea.
this sounds gross.
It's not.
Is
It's
it
really,
nice?
really lovely. Yeah.
All right. Guess what I'm drinking?
You've got 2 cups.
I have. What's in this one?
Hot coffee.
What
And in
kind?
the other one,
What kind?
black.
It is, yeah.
Yep. And in the other one, iced coffee.
No, but I nearly
Black.
did. I nearly did. No, it's not. It's orange juice.
I was just checking on the pup, making sure he's not wreaking havoc on the house.
Is he good being a good boy?
So for the majority of the time, he's a good boy. But then he goes through something that we think is him being overtired. And he goes through a nippy stage. And we say, come on, it's time for your nippy nap. And he goes in and we put him in his bed for his nippy nap. So when he starts getting overstimulated and he starts getting a bit nappy or a bit yappy or something, I think he's overtired and he needs his nap. So he has a little nippy nap.
I wonder if he'll nippy nap on the beanbags when he comes to ours.
He'll either nippy nap on them or he will wreck them and there'll be beanballs everywhere.
Yeah. I'd rather he didn't do that, but
yeah. No, we can
see.
try. We can try our best.
We'll see.
Only hope, but for the majority, we took him round our friends the other day, and they had a dog, and he'd just been out for a big walk, and they had kids there as well, and we took his bed with us, and he just played with the dog for a little bit, and then settled himself into his bed and went to sleep. So he's a good boy the majority of the time.
Bless him.
But he's got this. Yeah, he's got these devilish puppy eyes. Like devilish. He puts his ears right back and he looks up at you with these like, you can see all the whites of his eyes as well. And he looks like droopy dog. He's like,
You're like, you can have anything.
He is a manipulative bastard.
Yeah. He knows how to work it.
Little git. No, for the most part, he's a lovely boy, but he is a puppy, and I need to keep reminding myself that he is a puppy.
Yeah. I need to keep reminding myself that Jess is a teenager.
Yeah. That's what Josie keeps saying to me. Well, she is a teenager. And I feel like that's just an excuse. Yeah. That even though they're teenagers, they're still not allowed to be dicks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, she is a teenager, or she has got a period. I'm like, yeah, but still.
Yeah.
She needs to check herself.
I mean, I feel like, but they're just teenagers. Yeah, but they've got hormones and that gets you so far. It doesn't click you all the way.
Yeah. You're still in charge of your actions.
Yeah, exactly.
No matter how you feel.
You're still a member of this family. So, rein it in a little bit. I know. Oh, the dogs get far more leeway than the children do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because they don't chat back. Although Caesar does chat back. If you go, stop it, he goes, arr, arr, arr. Like, no, don't you answer me back.
Get to your bed.
He does it to Josie sometimes. She'll tell him off. He goes, arr, arr, arr. And I go, don't speak to your mother like that.
Watch your tone. Oh.
But just honestly, we've just adopted another child. We can barely handle the 2 that we've got. And now we thought it was a good idea to add another one. But this one loves us.
Yeah.
He's lovely.
Oh,
and that's nice.
Yeah. I can't wait for their sleepover.
Yeah,
how it's not our sleepover anymore. It's their sleepover.
sleepover. Yeah, Caesar's really excited.
Yeah.
Keep telling him.
Pup will be bouncing around all over the place until she has enough, and then she'll be moody and she'll go upstairs and put herself to bed.
Random blam. Go.
All right. My random blam is a tongue twister. Limber up, people, because I expect all of you to do it. So
yeah, absolutely.
Somewhere out there on this Tuesday morning, I expect to hear a lot of shits and God damn it. So today's tongue twister is give Papa a cup of proper coffee in a copper coffee cup. And I have just sent it to you, so you've got it. Give Papa a cup of proper coffee in a copper coffee cup. There you go. Done it. Right. Nailed it.
Give Papa a cup of proper coffee in a copper coffee cup.
Hey!
How about that?
We're good at these.
Yep. For all of the other people that are just listening and trying to remember it, good luck. Yeah. Write it down.
That's it. Rewind it a little bit. Learn it.
Yep.
Send it. If you want to video yourself trying to say it, send it. Yep. Love it.
So my random blam pertains to the episode.
Nice.
About phone scammers and scam phone calls. We've all had them.
Hate them.
Yep, hate them. And in 2021, one phone spammer made over 200 million calls.
Jesus Christ.
Yep. It works out at 27,000 fraud attempts per hour. That's not one person.
An hour.
Yeah, that's not one person, but like a team of people. So there's like a fraud, like a phone scammer team.
Jeez.
Yeah, and they made
27,000 an hour.
They made 202 million scam calls in 2021.
Jesus.
They're busy.
What a bunch of slags.
I know, but also, when you say to them, I'm not interested, they don't just hang up and make the next call, do they? They just keep going.
Yeah, I know.
So if they're making 27,000 an hour, you'd think they'd be like, right, bye. I'll crack on with the next one.
Sometimes I used to go, oh, yeah, actually, I do want to speak to you about that. Give me 2 seconds. And I just put my phone down on the side and go and make a cup of coffee.
Start playing hold music.
Yeah. I will not be bullied.
Yeah.
Bastards.
God,
that's disgusting.
Like, my mum does it on the phone. She goes, I told you I'm not interested. No, I've said that. I'm not giving you my address. I'm not giving you my bank details. No, you can ask me all day. I'm not. I'm like, Mum, just hang up.
Yeah, just go
no,
for that red
I've already
button.
told you. I'm not answering your questions. You can keep asking, but I'm not going to answer them. Oh, you've asked again. Well, guess what? I'm not going to answer. Like, have you got nothing better to do with your day?
Red button, Mum. Red button.
Just
God damn it.
Cut them off.
Oh.
She's like, what don't you understand? What are you not listening to me? I'm not going to answer your question.
You're not listening to yourself.
So funny.
Oh.
Scam calls, however, not a laughing matter.
No. Well, I'm suddenly a bit scared and surprised, actually. I don't know how I feel. Not a laughing matter. But apparently they are. What's wrong with you?
Sorry, that's really inappropriate.
Oh.
No. The episode today is about a scam phone call, and it was the most perplexing thing I've ever heard in my entire life. So I'm very, very interested, and in
that case, it's not a laughing matter, I'm guessing.
No, it's not a laughing matter at all. It's a very serious situation.
Random blams, done. Go.
Right, let's crack on with the shout outs.
Yeah.
So a massive shout out to Chris, who donated to our Buy Me a Coffee page shortly before Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you so
thanks,
much for
Chris.
your thanks so much for your support and your donation.
Oh,
Because
thanks.
it does take a lot of time and effort to do these episodes for you. A lot of research goes into it. We
Well,
do have to fund this ourselves, so any donations are kindly received.
yeah.
Um,
It does make a huge difference because I work full time and I do a lot of traveling for work, which means I'm unable to actually get anything down or concentrate on research and things like that. So I always end up sitting up till like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, either editing or researching or something, which is why Sarah very graciously does more episodes than I do. So when we get these donations or subscriptions or anything like that, it means so much to us. It really,
yeah,
really means, I know it sounds like something that people say on YouTube and podcasts and things all the time, but honestly, it really, really means the world to us. So thank you so much.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And we've also got a shout out as well to Karen's little doggy, because
Yay!
we in our perplexed pup dates, we did say to you all, send us pictures of your dogs because we absolutely love
Yes.
them.
Yes,
And
please.
Karen sent us a picture of her gorgeous doggy, but didn't include his name, so we didn't know who to shout out to. But we did do some investigative research and figured out his name could possibly be Raiden.
Could be.
Could be Raiden.
Could
If it's
be.
not,
Could be
don't.
Raisin.
It could be. It was hard to zoom in on the neck collar.
Yeah. I mean, why are you laughing? My cat was called Raisin.
Oh, of course it was.
Yeah. So
It was.
whether you're a Raiden or a Raisin or something completely different,
Yeah.
Braden, I know,
Such a good dog.
such a lovely,
Such a good
lovely little
boy.
doddy.
Yeah.
And we loved seeing that. Thanks for that.
So thank you.
Yeah. And I want to do not only two shout outs. One is to all of our listeners that have remained with us. And we know you're still out there because we get all these downloads every month. And
Mm-hmm.
the other week, did you see we had an amazing amount of
Yeah.
downloads like over Christmas? I absolutely couldn't believe it. But thank you to all our listeners of 2023. It's our first year and we've been really finding our feet, but we've been so overwhelmed with the amount of people that still want to listen to our
Yeah.
ramblings.
Yep. Whether you are a dedicated listener from day one and you can't wait for the episodes to come out on a Tuesday, or whether you just
Yeah.
drop in and out and listen to the episodes that pique your interest, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts.
Thank you. And my second shout out is to Renee, because Renee has been a supporter of ours for such a long time.
Yeah.
Such a long time. But she's so proactive with our stuff. Like she comments on like our YouTube videos. She likes our YouTube videos. She likes and comments on Facebook. And I appreciate you so much, Renee. I really do.
Yeah.
And you constantly make me smile every time I see your name pop up on Facebook or YouTube or wherever it might be. And I think she's so lovely. And we consider you a friend, Renee. And I very, very much appreciate your support.
Yeah.
And you make me smile on a daily basis. So well done, you.
Yep. And thank you to everybody that comments on our posts, because it's you know, not only the episodes, but we then have to do all the posts and all the editing for the posts and whatever else. So
Yeah.
just to note that you're actually seeing them.
Yeah.
It's great.
You guys probably see them more than I do because
Yeah.
I'm rubbish with things like that. Sarah takes care of doing all of our social media and now our perplexed pup dates.
Mm-hmm.
So so big thank you to you, Poddy, for making our whole first year of podcasting a thing.
No, thank you to you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Right, let's crack on.
Let's crack on.
Morning.
Morning, morning.
Morning.
To season 2. We accidentally started season 2 without realising it.
We did accidentally start season 2.
we recorded it in 2023.
Yeah,
So,
to be
and it came
released
out.
in. Yep. And so
Yeah.
this is our first official 2024 episode that we are recording.
Yeah.
So hence all the shout outs in this one and not the last one. So apologies about that.
Yeah. And also in the last episode, we gave out some great advice about, New Year's Eve is like the one you're 25% more likely to be burgled. And then Sarah texted me and was like, do you know, I've seen the most posts about people getting broken into. And I was like, oh, good job we gave everyone that advice. And
It was a day too late.
And then you were like, yeah, but the episode wasn't out then. And I was like, oh, whoops.
Our heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Sorry about that.
For next year though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it would be right on it.
Yeah. You absolutely know. Trigger warning for this episode. This episode contains description of sexual assault.
Oh.
So listen at your own discretion.
Okay.
So today's episode, and I apologise in advance because I've got a bit of Toblerone next to me, and as much as my willpower is and it's not good. Anyways, I'm going to try and not eat it throughout the episodes. But if you hear me eating a bit of my Toblerone, I do apologise. You'll know that I've caved into my willpower.
Yeah.
So yeah. So today's episode is one that I came across it a little while ago and I was like, I just couldn't believe it. And it sent me down a rabbit hole.
Nice.
Like a psychological, I studied a half a year of psychology at college before I left. And in that half a year, we done a couple of theories and it took me all back down that road because it was just fascinating. And I'm really, really interested and really intrigued to get your opinion on it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you can hear from my tone and buzzing.
Yeah.
Either that or the Toblerone.
Maybe a bit of both.
Bit of both.
You did the phone stalker, didn't you?
I did the phone stalker, yes.
And that was that was weird because I couldn't understand how it's happening and all that, but I can't understand how this is going to be a psychological roller coaster.
You will find. Hang on to your seats. You're about to find out.
I'm hanging on.
So, April 9th, 2004. For most people, this was a very ordinary day at work. But for one McDonald's employee, Louise Ogden, this marked her most horrific day at work and in her life by far.
Goodness.
18-year-old Louise had been working at McDonald's in Mount Washington, Kentucky for 4 months. She'd only been there for 4 months. She'd taken the job because her mum had gotten poorly and she'd not been able to work. So she'd taken this job at McDonald's to help try and support her family.
Oh.
During her 4 months there, she was a model employee. So when a call came in during her shift to say that she was suspected of stealing, she was absolutely flabbergasted. Assistant manager Donna Summers was the first person on hand to answer the phone that day.
Did you just say Donna Summers?
Yep.
She's a singer.
Not in this episode.
Oh.
She is assistant manager of McDonald's in Mount Washington, Kentucky.
Fair enough.
So she got to the phone first that day, and the man on the other end of the phone introduced himself as Police Officer Scott. And Police Officer Scott said that they had received a call to say that an employee at that McDonald's had stolen a customer's purse, and that he said that he also had McDonald's corporate manager, Lisa Siddons, on the other line to sort of corroborate. I've spoken to the corporate manager and she's asked me to call the store directly. And he said that the customer had given a description of the suspected thief that had stolen her purse. And the description was of a slightly built young white woman with blonde hair. And Officer Scott asked Donna if she had anyone working there by that description. and the description matched Louise Ogden perfectly.
Uh-oh.
So Donna confronted Louise about the suspected theft, which she obviously denied. She absolutely denied that she'd taken anything from a customer. And Officer Scott told Donna that Louise had the option of either going down to the police station for formal questioning or to agree to be strip searched.
Strip searched?
Yep. And Louise was quite obviously distraught about the accusation. She'd never stolen anything in her life. She was really, really innocent. She'd never done anything wrong in her life, and she wanted to get this cleared up. So she was quite happy to go down to the police station, and she said, I'll go down there because I haven't done anything wrong. I just want to get it cleared up. But Officer Scott said that there wasn't any police officers on hand to deal with such minor matters and that she would need to be strip searched. And if it was found that she didn't have the money, she didn't have the purse on her, then everything would be fine. But everything was not fine. So Donna then proceeded to follow Officer Scott's instructions for the next hour. Now, there's a lot of backwards and forwards. So everything that Donna does from here on out was instructed by Officer Scott. So I'm not going to say Officer Scott said to do this and then Donna said this, because it's a lot of she said to him to tell her to do this, to do that. So everything Donna does is what was told by Officer Scott. So she escorted Louise into the manager's office. And in the room with her was also another assistant manager, Kim Dockery. And Kim was only there because Louise had asked her to be there. So she thought, if I need to be strip searched, then I want someone else, kind of to bear witness. But Officer Scott had told Donna not to tell Kim any information. So not to tell Kim what was being said on the phone. Kim only knew that Louise had been suspected of stealing this purse and that she was being strip searched. So Louise was ordered to remove her clothing one piece at a time, starting from her socks, like her shoes and her socks. And Donna would take the socks and she would shake them out and make sure nothing was hidden in them. And then she would place them in a bag. And this bag was eventually taken out to put in her car as evidence. And Officer Scott said that the police would come and collect this evidence at a later time. During this time, Officer Scott also instructed Donna to take Louise's car keys from her. Louise was instructed to strip completely naked. All of the clothing was put in the evidence bag and taken to the car. And she was quite rightly very upset. She was kind of humiliated as well.
Yeah.
And Officer Scott on the phone had Kim consoling Louise, saying, don't worry, it'll be over soon. Everything will be okay. So Officer Scott instructed Donna to tell Kim to leave. So now it was just Donna and Louise. And the strip search continued for a full hour until Donna told Officer Scott that she was needed at the front of the restaurant. She was the manager there. They were actually short-staffed because she'd also taken Louise as well. So she was needed to help run the restaurant. So she couldn't watch over Louise until police arrived. So Officer Scott told Donna that she would need to get someone else that she could trust to watch Louise. And it had to be a man. So Donna called upon another McDonald's employee, Jason Bradley, who was one of the cooks there. By this time, Louise was completely naked and she was just using an apron to kind of cover herself. So when Jason came in to the manager's office and he took the phone, Officer Scott instructed Jason to remove Louise's apron and describe to him what her body looked like.
Oh, no way.
But Jason refused.
Good.
He was like, absolutely not. I'm not doing this. He handed the phone straight back to Donna and then carried on with his shift.
Good for him.
So Officer Scott told Donna that she needed to get someone else that she could trust. And he asked her, do you have a husband? And Donna said, no, but I do have a fiance. and her fiance's name was Walter Nix Jr.
Fancy name.
Walter wasn't a McDonald's employee, just to let you know. But nonetheless, Donna called Walter to come down to the McDonald's and to watch over Louise until the police arrived and to take over the phone call.
Oh.
So Officer Scott explained in detail to Walter what had happened and what was going to happen. He explained why Louise was being strip searched. And he also told Walter that Louise was a drug addict and that she was a drug dealer and that she could potentially have drugs hidden on her. And he said that officers were actually at Louise's home now conducting a drug search. The officer told Walter what he needed to do, and Walter obeyed Officer Scott's instructions for the next 2.5 hours. With the officer giving Walter instructions, he also was speaking to Louise as well. So every now and then, the phone was passed to Louise where Officer Scott would say, you need to do as you're being told. Otherwise, you're going to make things so much worse for yourself. Walter made Louise remove her apron and bend over.
Oh, God.
And this was to see if anything was hidden anywhere. He made Louise insert fingers into her vagina and show it to him. He made Louise perform different exercises in the hope of shaking out anything that might be hidden. So star jumps, squats. He would make her stand on a chair and bend over and stand on the desk and do squats and things. And this was all on the instruction of Officer Scott. The officer on the phone told Louise that if she didn't obey the instructions, that worse things would happen. And he also told Walter to hit Louise if she didn't do as he was instructed. So he was told to spank her. Walter made Louise sit on his lap and to kiss him. And this was to allow Walter to see if there was any alcohol on her breath. And
it wasn't because of that.
That's what Officer Scott said to Walter. You need to check if there's alcohol. You need to check if there's alcohol on her breath, and this is the way that you do it.
Yeah, right.
At one point, Walter spanked Louise for 10 minutes straight, leaving her with really big angry welts all across her bum. The manager, Donna Summers, she would periodically check back in to make sure everything was okay. So she'd go back into the office. And when instructed to do so by Officer Scott, Walter would make Louise cover herself back up with the apron whenever Donna entered. So Donna was completely unaware of anything else that was going on. She assumed Walter was just watching over Louise until the police came.
Walter's not a good guy either.
When Donna left, the apron was removed and the abuse would continue. After 2.5 hours of what I can only imagine was absolutely terrifying for Louise, the abuse culminated in Walter making Louise perform oral sex on him. Now, I can't for the life of me find out what was said on the phone call to persuade Walter, who was a 42-year-old church-going man, that Louise had to perform oral sex on him to as
to
part
help
of
in
this
the investigation.
Exactly.
Well, he's just obviously not a good guy, is he? He's just getting what he can get.
Well,
I'll
go through that. I will go through that. So once he'd finished sexually assaulting Louise, it kind of dawned on him what he'd done. And he said to Officer Scott, I need to leave. Can I leave? And at that point, he handed the phone back to Donna and he left McDonald's and he drove straight to his friend's house where he confessed to his friend, and he just literally turned up at his door and was like, I've done some awful things. So immediately he knew that he'd done something that he shouldn't have done. So Donna now had the phone again, and she was instructed again by Officer Scott to find someone to look after Louise. But Donna was short on staff and she had nobody else that she could call in. So she managed to spot the maintenance man. And the maintenance man, he didn't really work for McDonald's. that he worked for a company that maintained the McDonald's
like
maintenance
properties
things.
and things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was actually at the McDonald's just to get some food. And his name was Thomas Sims. So Donna asked Thomas if he could watch over Louise in the office. The phone was then passed to Thomas, where Officer Scott again spoke to him and explained the situation. However, Thomas had the wherewithal to actually question what was going on, and he refused to obey any of the instructions. And he actually sought out Donna and was like, Donna, this officer is trying to make me remove her apron and describe her body. That's not right.
That's
So
not
Donna,
cool.
That's not cool. Not cool. Until that point, Donna was unaware. She thought that they were just going in there to watch her. So once Donna heard what Officer Scott was asking them to do, she'd actually decided to ring the corporate manager, Lisa Siddons, who Officer Scott had previously said was on the other line. Lisa, however, had not received a call from a police officer, and until that point had actually been asleep, and she'd been completely unaware of what had been going on. So when Donna got back on the other phone to question Officer Scott, he hung up. The realization that actually all of what had just happened, it suddenly hit her.
Massive sexual assault going on.
Yep. And she was hysterical, and she was crying, and she was apologizing to Louise. But Louise was like traumatized. And she actually didn't know what to say. She was shaking. She was naked. She'd been in there for so long. And she actually said to Donna, please don't make me come to work tomorrow. Do I have to come in tomorrow? She was so traumatized. But one of the employees there actually had the bright idea to dial *69 and jot down the number that Officer Scott had called from.
Good one.
So for those of you that don't know, *69 was a way of finding out the number that had just called. So I don't think you can do it anymore, but it was great technology back then.
Yeah.
So Donna was absolutely devastated by the whole thing. And there was CCTV in the office where it had happened. And she watched the whole thing back, and she saw what her fiance Walter had done. And she immediately ended things with him. The Mount Washington police were called, and that telephone number that they got from the *69 was given to the police. At first, the police assumed that it was some sort of hoax call from a payphone that was outside the McDonald's, because they assumed that the caller would be watching.
Yeah, that they'd want to see the commotion and.
Yep, he would be in the vicinity, and that was how he's getting his, kicks. But they actually managed to trace that phone number to a payphone in Panama City in Florida. Which is many miles away.
Many, many miles.
But what Mount Washington police also found was that this wasn't an isolated event. After a quick Google search, detectives found more than 60 similar hoax calls across 30 states, dating back the last 10 years to 1994.
Jesus.
Here are some of those hoax calls. On August 4th, 1994, a man claiming to be a sheriff's deputy called a McDonald's restaurant in Saybrook Township in Ohio, stating that a customer's purse was stolen from the restaurant. The caller told two minor females working at the restaurant to allow the manager to strip search them. Only one allowed the strip search. The other one was like, absolutely not, I'm not doing this. And the other one was forced to do a strip search. 2 calls were reported in 1995. One in Devil's Lake, North Dakota, and one in Fallon, Nevada, with very similar motives. That they were saying that a customer's purse had been stolen, and that the 2 young females had to be strip searched.
Was it always McDonald's that were targeted?
Nope.
No.
Nope. In 1997, a man claiming to be a County Deputy Sheriff called a Pizza Hut in Starkville, Mississippi, and accused an employee of stealing money from a restaurant customer. The manager of the restaurant was summoned to the restaurant in order to do a strip search of the employee.
Oh, goodness.
On January 20th, 1999, a manager from a Burger King in Fargo, North Dakota, slapped the naked buttocks of a 17-year-old female employee after being instructed by someone on the phone claiming to be a police officer.
God's sake.
On December 16th, 1999, in Blackfoot, Idaho, a 16-year-old female server working at a local pizza parlor was taken to the manager's office after a phone call made by an individual only identifying as Officer Davis from the Blackfoot Police Department, accused an employee of stealing a woman's purse with a $50 bill in it earlier that evening. The caller convinced the manager to strip search the employee and to provide detailed descriptions of her naked body, including her breasts and genitalia. The incident ended when a 22-year-old male colleague of the victim came into the room and intervened. And then the male employee confronted the officer on the phone, and then the officer immediately hung up. So it seems that there's a bit of a pattern throughout this, in that the managers and anyone from an older generation will adhere to Officer Scott or the officer on the phone. A younger employee will come in and be like, absolutely not.
No.
Not doing that. That's not okay. Yeah. And that happens quite a lot throughout these. On November 30th, 2000, a female McDonald's manager in Litchfield, Kentucky, undressed herself in the presence of a customer. The caller had convinced her that the customer was a suspected sex offender and that the manager was serving as bait, would enable undercover police officers to arrest him.
Oh my goodness.
In 2001, the manager of a Hooters restaurant in Charleston, West Virginia, told two female employees that a police officer had called the restaurant and reported a stolen change purse. The caller told the women to strip in front of the manager and threatened them with arrest if they did not do so. In December 2001, a supervisor for an Indianapolis area Burger King restaurant strip searched a part-time 15-year-old female employee in front of a male co-worker after a call was made to the business by a policeman claiming the employee had stolen a purse. The caller asked for a description of the employee's hair and tan lines. On May 29th, 2002, an 18-year-old female McDonald's employee who was celebrating her birthday on that day in Iowa, it was her first day on the job, and she was forced to strip naked, jog in place, and assume several embarrassing poses at the direction of a caller on the phone. In November 2002, a manager for a Taco Bell restaurant in Statesboro, Georgia, received a call from a detective claiming that a purse had been stolen from the lobby. The manager then took the 19-year-old female employee, based on the caller's description, to the manager's office, where he completely stripped the victim of her uniform, reading the clothing tags for the caller on the other end, and then putting them in the safe. During the incident, at the caller's order, the manager also forced the employee to exercise before rubbing and inspecting most of her body, especially the orifices. The caller claimed that this was to see if any sweat had revealed signs of green residue on her body, indicating that she had made contact with supposedly stolen money. It doesn't stop there. On January 26, 2003, an Applebee's assistant manager in Davenport, Iowa, subjected a waitress to a 90-minute strip search after receiving a collect call from someone who claimed to be a regional manager for Applebee's. A few weeks earlier, all managers had received a company memo about the potential hoax call. In February 2003, a phone call was made to a McDonald's in Hinesville, Georgia. The female manager, who believed she was speaking to a police officer, took a female employee into the women's bathroom and strip searched her. She also brought in a 55-year-old male janitor who conducted a body cavity search of the woman to uncover hidden drugs. The cavity search entailed the janitor probing the employee's vagina with his fingers. On June 3rd, 2003, A Taco Bell manager in Alaska received a call from a man who claimed to be working for a company and investigated drug abuse at the restaurant. The manager picked a 14-year-old female customer who he believed to be the suspect, and he proceeded to strip search her and make her perform several lewd acts at the caller's request. June 5th, 2003, a Hardee's manager in a Rapid City, South Dakota, was manipulated into strip searching a female server and holding her against her will in his office for 3 hours after being told by a caller claiming to be an officer of the city police that an employee had stolen money from a customer. After searching her and finding no evidence of theft, the caller then instructed the manager to check the employee for drugs before telling him to touch intimate areas of the victim's body. Gosh, I didn't realise how many there actually were. There's still loads more of these.
Awful.
In July 2003, a Winn-Dixie grocery store manager in Panama City, Florida, received a phone call instructing him to bring a female cashier who matched the description provided by the caller into an office where she was to be strip searched. The cashier was forced to undress and assume various poses as part of the search. The incident ended when another manager entered the office to retrieve a set of keys, and he was like, this isn't right. And he stopped it.
What the fuck is going on in here?
What the shit?
Jesus.
In February 2004, 4 separate Wendy's restaurant branches within Plymouth County, Massachusetts, were the targets of a strip search phone call hoax in the course of a single night. 4 of them in a single night.
Jeez.
On March 22nd, 2004, another young female customer, a 17-year-old high school student, on her spring vacation break at a Taco Bell in Fountain Hills, Arizona, was strip searched by a 39-year-old male manager in the back room, supposedly at the request of a police officer on the phone. None of these incidents went quite as far as the one in Mount Washington with Louise Ogden, but police knew that all of these calls had to be the work of one man. They were just so similar.
Yeah.
They all followed the same sort of MO. So after finding out that the call in Mount Washington came from Panama City in Florida, it was on a prepaid calling card. Officers managed to trace that calling card to a specific Walmart in Florida. They then managed to get the CCTV from there and managed to find the man that had brought the card.
No way.
Yeah, but it was because other police officers from the different areas kind of they came together. So they also had the calling card from a different time. They managed to trace that to a different Walmart. They managed to get the CCTV from that Walmart as well. They managed to match up the gentleman buying the cards.
Don't call him a gentleman.
They managed to find the douchebag that had bought these calling cards.
That's better.
The man in the video was wearing a very distinct uniform. And at first, they thought it was a police uniform, but it was actually later identified as the uniform of a corrections officer. So police took the photos from the surveillance to the warden at Bay Correctional Facility. It was the only correctional facility in Panama Bay, Florida. And they were told that that is where that uniform would have come from.
Right.
So they took the photos of this so-called douchebag man to the warden, and the warden identified the employee, and the suspect was formally identified as David R. Stewart, a married man with 5 children. David was immediately arrested and his home was searched, and police found many a prepaid calling card at his home. And when they conducted like these searches on these prepaid calling cards, they found that one of them had been used to call 9 restaurants in the past year. They also found a shed ton of police equipment, so uniform, dozens of applications to the police department for various different jobs, loads of guns, hundreds of police magazines. So it was almost like he was fanatical about being a police officer.
Yeah.
And when David was first arrested, he actually said to police I'm glad it's over. But then after that, kind of what you would think was an admittal, he then refused to say anything else. He refused to admit that he had any part in any of the phone calls. But he was extradited back to Mount Washington because that's where the police had come from to charge him. So he was actually charged with impersonating a police officer, solicitation of sodomy, and unlawful imprisonment.
Yeah.
This is the perplexing part, because of all the horrific things that were done to Louise, they weren't done by him. What is the crime for him saying, do this to that person, but actually that person is the one that does the crime?
I get what you're saying.
Apart from impersonating a police officer, unlawful imprisonment, he did not imprison her. That was done by the McDonald's employees. Yeah,
but it was done by his say-so.
I know, but if I said to you, go and jump off a cliff, and you went and did it, that's your... That I wouldn't get done for anything.
Yeah, but what if you said, I'm holding a gun to Puppy's head, and if you don't go and run off that cliff, I'm going to shoot her?
But what crime is that?
Well, it would still be like murder, wouldn't it? Because you're responsible for my death.
I didn't murder you. You jumped off that cliff.
Yeah, but you made me.
Didn't make you do anything.
Well, you did, because you
was your choice.
Kill my dog.
That's your choice. You see what I mean, though?
Yeah.
These people chose to do that crime. They were in no way under threat. The police officer was not there.
No, but they were under under their control, weren't they? Because they were threatened with, I'm a policeman. You need.
That's not a crime.
Yeah, but they're still. It is. But they're responsible for that sexual assault.
If I said to you, go and rob that bank because I've told you to do so, and you went and robbed that bank, that's your crime. That's not my crime.
No, but that's different because I know you. And I'd just be like, get stuff. I'm not going to go and rob a bank.
Yeah, but if, as a police officer, it might be like a crime of, abuse of power and things like that.
What about people that break in, or walk up to someone on the street and go, give us your purse? What if I was a stranger and I walked up and I held a gun at you and I said, give me your purse?
That's robbery.
Yeah. Why is it robbery? Because I'm threatening you with a gun. What about if I said,
see where you're going with this?
It's a toy gun. It's not a real gun. You chose to believe that I had a real gun and you gave me your purse.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this. However, after being charged with impersonating a police officer, solicitation of sodomy, and unlawful imprisonment, a jury found David not guilty of all charges.
Piss off. As if.
Yep.
He should have been charged with a lot more than that.
He was charged. Nope. Nothing. And he was found not guilty of all the charges. And double jeopardy means that if he was to come forward now and go, actually, it was me, he can't be charged.
No.
But since his arrest, all of these hoax phone calls have stopped.
What a coincidence.
I bet you were all wondering, though, what's happened with the McDonald's staff that participated in the phone call?
Yeah. Well, nothing, I would assume.
They committed a crime, and that's why it's so confusing. So here it comes. So Louise Ogden actually sued McDonald's. So I think her initial request was something like $200 million or something like that.
Yeah,
but
Louise.
She actually managed to she got $1 million.
Good.
From McDonald's for their part in the hoax calls. So McDonald's blamed their staff for failure to adhere to company policy in regards to the searches, which they did. So company policy was, if you are to perform a strict search, it needs to be this, 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 and this. So, and that wasn't what happened. But it actually came to light that McDonald's top corporation, whatever else, were actually made aware of these hoax phone calls. The same as like the Applebee's and things like that. They were all made aware of these phone calls were going around. But they
the time Louise got attacked.
Before that. But they failed to pass down this information to their staff. So they didn't warn their staff members of this hoax call that was going around.
Yeah, and also McDonald's should be responsible for hiring managers that, you know, I mean, I don't want to come down on, you know, Donna Summer.
No, because if it doesn't matter who you employ, if you've trained them and then they have not adhered to their training, that's not on that's on them, isn't it?
I mean, I was a restaurant manager, and if I'd had a phone call from the police, I saw that. If I'd had a phone call from the police and they said, we've had a report, you need to take one of your staff members in and perform a strip search, or I'd be like, right, we'll just wait for you to get here then.
I'm gonna stop you there because this is exactly what we're gonna cover in a minute.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this because you've got a very different opinion to me.
I'm fuming.
I can tell. So, Donna Summers also sued McDonald's for failing to protect her and to warn her about these hoax phone calls.
Fair enough.
And she was awarded $400,000. Donna Summers was instantly fired from McDonald's for breaking company policy by allowing a non-employee into the office. So, Walter Nix. She broke company procedure by allowing Walter into the office.
Yep.
She pled guilty to unlawful imprisonment, and she got a 1-year bail sentence.
All right.
Walter pled guilty to sexual abuse, sexual misconduct, and unlawful imprisonment, and was sentenced to 5 years in prison.
Well, I agree with that because he's an adult man.
Yeah, but if you're saying that it's okay if someone told him to do that.
No, I'm not saying it's okay. I'm not saying it's okay. I'm saying that, who was the guy that was on the phone?
Officer Scott.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it wasn't, was it?
Oh, David Stewart, yeah.
I'm saying that he should have been punished because he instigated that. And there is a law that exists that if you and I went out to a pub for a drink and I took a knife, this is a pen, but if I took a knife and I stabbed someone, you would be implicated for it as well. Because if you're a member of the party, if they said to you, well, did you try and stop her? And you were like, well, no, I didn't really know what she was doing. And
this is why I don't go to pubs with you.
What exactly?
So Walter he said he always felt regret over his actions and maintains that he was just following what he thought was police instructions. So my question to you all, would you have followed what you thought was police instructions despite it going against your nature? Now, I know what you're going to say. I know exactly what you're going to say. You're going to go, nope, not me.
No, I
would
wouldn't
never follow those instructions. However, in 1961, there is a very famous experiment on obedience for this exact reason. You know, we are compelled to obey an authority figure.
You say we.
Me, not you.
Yeah, I'm not compelled to obey.
No.
In fact, I got myself in a lot of trouble once because a policeman poked me in the shoulder and went, just sit down. Poked me in the shoulder and I grabbed his finger.
Oh, God.
And I won't go into detail, but it was a long night.
And you've just come out of prison, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't deal well with the feeling of being pushed around and told what to do, especially if I've got a gut feeling that's like, no. Okay. I'll be like, I don't want to do that. You come here and do that.
Well, for everybody else, I'm going to go into this experiment. So Stanley Milgram, it's called the Milgram experiment of obedience. Okay. And Stanley Milgram designed this experiment after the Holocaust. to
Okay.
test if humans are more conditioned to follow authority figures regardless of moral reasoning. So
Interesting.
we all know what happened in the Holocaust. You know, given any other situation, take Hitler out of it, those people, the majority of those people would not have committed such atrocities had they not had that authority figure telling them to do so. Okay, so Milgram's experiment required a teacher to administer electric shocks to the learner during a memory test. If the learner, who was played by an actor, gave the wrong answer during their test, the teacher, who was a volunteer, was to press a button and shock the learner. So that was to give them electric shocks. The teacher was told that this was to test whether shock therapy worked better in the memory. Prior to the shocks being given, the teachers, who were the volunteers, met with the learners, and they did not know that the learners were actors. They assumed that they were also volunteers.
Right.
They picked whether they were going to be the teacher or the learner, but unbeknownst to the teacher, both pieces of paper said teacher on them. So they would always get the teacher one, and the learner just pretended that they got the learner slip. So they didn't know that there was any actors in this. So the teachers saw the learners being strapped into the electric chair. They saw them as human beings, you know. They met them, introduced themselves. They knew them as people. But once they were strapped into the electric chair, the teacher could no longer see them. They could not see the learner. They could only hear the responses from the learner.
Okay.
Those responses ranged from a small cry of pain after the electric shock to crying, begging, pleading. After each wrong answer, the teacher was required to administer an increasing amount of electricity, ranging from 15 volts to a lethal 450 volts.
Jeez.
So every time they got one wrong, they had to press a button and then step it up, step it up, step it up. There was also an experimenter in this experiment, and the experimenter was played by an actor, and he was wearing a lab coat. Okay, so he would stand next to the teacher and ensure that the rules were being followed. If the teacher questioned the experiment, if they refused to go on, the experimenter was required to say one of four things in this order. So if they had, the teacher had pressed the button, shocked the learner had gone, oh, please stop, it's really, really hurting. And the teacher looked at the experimenter and said, do I actually really have to do this? The experimenter would say, please continue, or please go on. And that was normally enough for the teacher to go on. If they didn't, the experimenter would say, the experiment requires that you continue. And then the teacher would continue. If that was not enough, the experimenter would say, it is absolutely essential that you continue. And then the teacher would continue. And if that didn't work, the experimenter would say, you have no other choice, you must go on. They also had two other sentences that they could say. And these were, although the shocks may be painful, there is no permanent tissue damage, so please go on. Whether the learner likes it or not, you must go on until he has learned all the word pairs correctly, so please go on. The test was carried out on 40 participants.
Wow.
All are men aged between 20 and 40 from varying backgrounds. What percentage do you think administered the 450 volts, the lethal voltage, to their learners?
100%.
No. But it's a shocking amount, though. 65% of participants administered the lethal voltage because they were being told to do so, despite the pleas from the learner to stop. Some of the learners,
worrying.
Yep. Some of the learners even said things like, please stop, I have a heart condition. But then the experimenter would go, the experiment requires that you continue. and then they would do so. And there's videos of it, and the teachers who are administering the shocks are devastated. They're crying and they're pressing these buttons, administering these shocks to the learners, not wanting to do so,
but doing it
because the authority figure, the person in the lab coat next to them, told them to do so.
Which is why he should have been punished. Or was that a pun? That was shocking.
No, it's shocking. It really is fascinating. I find it so incredibly fascinating because so across the world, throughout the year, throughout history, there are so many examples of extreme obedience in the presence of an authority figure. And our previous episode of Jonestown
is exactly what I was thinking of.
Of just one example of extreme obedience. There is one authority figure, and because he has said, you all need to kill yourself, they did. So I'll go through the list of extreme obedience, because obviously you've got the Holocaust. Extreme obedience required them to do these horrific things, and they did them. The My Lai massacre. American soldiers absolutely massacred hundreds of Vietnamese civilians during the Vietnam War. For no reason other than that they were told to do so. The Chernobyl disaster. Plant workers knew that there was something wrong, and when they alerted their superiors to this, the superiors told them, just ignore it and continue. And they did so. Their extreme obedience contributed to that catastrophe. The Milgram experiment just goes to show that, you know, most people are conditioned to obey authority figures. Because given that situation, you would absolutely 100% say, I would not do that. There is no way that I would do that, because it goes against everything in my being to do those things. But I just don't know whether that speaks true, because
you don't know until after, I guess, do you?
I guarantee you, Donna Summers and Walter Nix would have said, if they was on this podcast and we'd have discussed this, they'd have gone, I'd never do that.
Yeah.
Never do that. And the fact that people all across America fell victim to this phone hoax is terrifying.
It is terrifying. It is terrifying that people are just so
conditioned to please.
Yeah, exactly. And follow an authority figure, whether or not it feels right to them or not.
Yeah. Despite the moral outcome or the you know, whatever's going on.
Yeah.
For Walter Nix to horrifically abuse that girl, yes, he done that, and yes, he chose to do that, but he's had to live with that for the rest of his life, that he's done that. And we've all been in situations.
And what about her? But what about her as well? Like, she's that
Louise,
would have damaged her for the rest of her life. That's horrendous.
Yeah, she was supposed to start college, and she couldn't go to college, and she had severe post-traumatic stress disorder and all sorts of things.
I believe that Walter and Donna, I do believe that they should have been punished for it, but so should he. Jeez, like Officer Scott, it never would have happened, and that's what they say in court, isn't it?
Yeah,
that never would have happened if you hadn't have done this, or you hadn't have, you know, a murder wouldn't have come to pass if you hadn't have brought a knife. Or if, you know, and that sexual assault would not have happened if it wasn't for him. So I think if they're going to get punished, I think 100% he should have been punished.
I absolutely think he should have been punished, but
he's the fucking instigator of it.
Yeah, it's just the law is so kind of black and white almost, isn't it?
Well,
if you're trying if you're trying to convict him for unlawful imprisonment, black and white, he did not forcefully imprison that girl.
He instigated sexual assault.
Yeah, so that was the solicitation to sodomy. That was his charge. But yeah, the jury felt that there wasn't enough evidence to charge him with anything, and
they're wrong.
he got off scot-free.
Oh
Scott.
God. Well, do you know what? I'm a believer in karma. So at some point, something would have, flown out the bushes and ripped off his knob.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. I'm 99.9% certain that he is now knobless.
Noblest. But honestly, when I first found this, I was like, what? How could somebody have done that?
Yeah.
But then the more I went into it and the more I researched these theories, the Milgram experiment and all these other extreme obedience, I was like, actually, that's terrifying that people could
Yeah.
fall victim to that.
Yeah.
That's actually
And have
people
done
can do that. Yeah, and
many,
have
many
done.
times. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, there's
It's
a village in France called Oradour-sur-Glane, and that's another example. German soldiers, part of the SS, Hitler's army, surrounded a village, and on orders went into this village and started killing people. And then the powers that be were like, "Oh no, that's the wrong place.
village.
Yeah, it's the wrong village." And they were like, "What do we do now?" And they were like,
Yeah.
"Well, you better obliterate
You've
that
started it, you
village."
need to finish it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, bomb the buildings, kill everybody in sight, women, children, everything, put them all in the church, set the church alight. Just get rid of any kind of evidence.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's
and
shocking.
they did it. They
Yeah.
did it. They lined the men up and shot them, and they put all the women and children in the church and set fire to it.
But that as well,
Horrendous.
when you're in a group decision like that, that takes off the onus from you, doesn't it? If you've made
Yeah.
that decision wasn't yours to make, there's actually 17 of you or however many there are going,
Yeah.
yes, let's do that. So you feel kind of burdenless that that's not, oh, I didn't make that decision.
Yeah.
Even
And
though you've
also,
carried out that act.
you could rationalize it with yourself and think, well, if I was the one out of all of us that went, nah, this doesn't feel right, what do you think is going to happen to you when the others go, oh, mutiny?
Gosh, it's just so terrifying, isn't it?
Hideous. Really hideous. And
But I'm glad I've got that out of my system because I've been wanting to do this story for ages.
it's a great one. I mean, it's tragic and hideous,
Yeah.
but it's fascinating
Perplexing.
that, it is really perplexing that someone can just have something like that in their spare time.
Yeah.
Ruining all those lives
And
all
for
over
what
the
reason
country.
did he do that? Because he couldn't see what was happening.
No,
So
but
what
I don't think you always need to see it.
gratification?
Yeah, it's kind of knowing that you've got that power.
That power,
He
yeah.
obviously had that want and need for power, didn't he? Because because the whole police thing.
Yeah, and it's a good job that he didn't become a police officer because what's that police officer that killed that girl in London recently? Yeah, Wayne Couzens, that's it. So he became a police officer, and all throughout his life he'd had this thing about power and control. And he managed, even though he had previous convictions, he managed to become a police officer, and then he absolutely abused his power as a police officer.
Yeah.
And murdered Sarah Everard. So it's a good job he didn't become a police officer because that would have been incredibly detrimental.
Yeah, Officer Scott. Hideous.
Yeah.
Well,
there you go. I'll leave you with that.
thanks.
Just be wary, question things. If you know the law, then you are well within your right to question those things that are being said to you. So if you're on the phone, don't feel embarrassed or shy. Just question things.
Yeah, just say to them, that's fine.
Why?
Say it to my face, why don't you? I would.
Yeah,
I'd be like,
do
you
that.
come down here and tell me that in person.
How about that?
And then we'll think about whether or not I actually do it. I'll tell you now, the answer's no. Yeah, question it. Lovely. Cheers, guys.
I'll see you next time.
Yeah, I'm fuming now. See you later.
Where'd you write up?
I'm going to go and punch someone now.
Bye.
Bye.
Go and dig your bastard hole.
Oh, yeah. I'll dig another one anyway.
Dig another bastard hole.
One bastard's already knocked on my door, so he obviously got past one bastard hole. Right, I'll go and do another one.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.